Welcome along to this, our 10th episode of the DePIN Coffee Hour by Havelo, where you can currently stake your HVLO tokens for 88% fixed. That's 88% guaranteed from when you lock in your tokens. I'm your host, Neil Sisson, and from Havelo, and today joining me, I have Andrew from Carrier One, Val from Syndica, and Jesse from Uprock. How are you doing, guys?
Good morning.
I see you've got your coffee there.
Good morning.
That's good. We've all got our coffees. Well, maybe not Andrew because he's in Dubai where it's really hot. I don't know if you still want to drink coffee in Dubai. I mean, I would.
Well,
but anyways, welcome everybody.
So I definitely need
I'm going
coffee.
to. I usually just kind of go around based on the order of how you've turned up on my screen. So no. Shouldn't read anything into that. But Andrew, why don't you tell us a little bit about your backstory and how you got into crypto and how that led you to Carrier One and what you're doing there?
Yeah, so my name is Andrew Lithy. I'm CEO and co-founder for Carrier One. I started in Bitcoin in 2010. Just some friends were like, "Hey, let's mine some Bitcoin," and here I am today, looking at new endeavors. And what made me start in Carrier One is I was kind of sick and tired of seeing all this meme tokens and DeFi. And I think with blockchain, we can develop something a lot better in terms of something real world application that will actually help us out in the long run. So for me, it was telecom, having had a background in telecom where I first started out as a network engineer. And I met my other partners through my other partner. His name's Samer Bichet, and he had 25 years of experience in telecom and said, "Hey, we need to fix a problem in telecom. And this big problem that we have is that we can't put enough nodes in, locations to cover a ubiquitous amount of coverage." So for us, that's why we kind of started in that, and that's why I wanted to start in that. And yeah.
All right, cool. Very good, thank you. I'm going to double click into some stuff you said there in a second. Val, do you want to give us your backstory? What's your introduction to crypto and DePIN and how you ended up at Syndica?
Yeah, sure. I joined crypto 4 years ago. I have marketing background, and before Syndica, I was part of marketing agency. So had quite a long and interesting story. Started from the KOL manager, then marketing manager, marketing lead, and so on. So I joined Syndica about 4 months ago. We already visited with the team Dubai, and from the Syndica perspective, it's really interesting how we contribute. We actually work with lots of startups. We accelerate them, we invest, and we build them. So we work with different verticals. Our focus is everything except gaming and NFTs. We're really interested in DePIN. This is something that during Dubai I was curious about. We did some side events just to understand this vertical much better, because everyone is so deep in AI, but lots of people probably do not understand what advantages DePIN has. So from Syndica perspective, we do believe that we need to support more startups, especially early stage in the DePIN vertical, to bring them, to raise them, to help to develop, and to develop this vertical so that it can be a second boom together with AI for sure.
Mm-hmm. So that's great. Awesome. Again, lots of stuff to double click in on there. But first, Jesse, what's your backstory?
Yeah, sure.
As well?
So my co-founding team and I have been starting startups for over 10 years together. Our first successful company was actually an app store for adults. And you can look that up. It's not safe for work. But essentially, we're a technology company, a third-party app store for Android. And we were dealing with, Operation Choke Point, where you're kind of being debanked, same issues that crypto faces today. And so that was my first reality of like, wow, the internet is getting really censored. And so looked at alternative payments like Bitcoin, et cetera. And it was a good, and that was a good success story for us, first tech company for us that we were able to sell. And so after that experience, we wanted to build a lot of privacy tools for those same customers. And we built instead of putting we were building like VPNs and encrypted storage lockers, stuff like that. And most of them are browser extensions. And after a while, we're like, you know what, instead of putting Band-Aids on other browsers, why don't we just build a better browser? So that was our crazy idea, number two. And we built the first fully encrypted mobile browser. It's called Tenta. It's much more nerdier than Brave. We fully encrypt everything. Even everything you downloaded was encrypted by default. And once you start building a browser, you think about the future of the internet and Web3. So that's really when we went drink the Kool-Aid, went all in. So we had a bunch of features like, you can load .eth domain names without any extensions or setup. It had a lot of crypto features built in. And then that got the attention of Avast, which is a cybersecurity company in Europe. And we ended up acquiring it. So how we got up to Uprock was, the whole point of that browser was to unblock the internet. And so we just knew we wanted to be in the Web3 space no matter what. We weren't sure what to do next. We knew the onboarding to crypto still sucked. We were really good at mobile. So we were just focused on what could be the hook or what could be the problem. And so we were just personally using AI tools ourselves just to move faster. And, ChatGPT came on and we're like, wow, this is amazing. But then very quickly, it felt very censored. And then all the same red flags came up from dealing with the App Store and the browser of like, okay, this whole wave of censorship is coming all over again. And if AI is supposed to be the future, this is not a very exciting future if it's going to clamp down, own all the data, and have some third-party rules. Like, you have any idea of who's setting these rules, right? And so we're like, the only way you can trust the AI future is if the data part is decentralized, or at least where the data is coming from, or it's powered by a lot of different sources. And when we did it on a smaller scale with a VPN company, we basically had our own VPN protocol that, we had 30 servers around the world that we managed, and we're constantly unblocking those. And so cat and mouse game, with companies around the world trying to block your VPN. So the only way you can do this is have millions and millions of nodes. And that was our eureka moment for Uprock. And so as soon as we started that, and been pretty good ever since.
All right, cool. Yeah, that's super interesting. I definitely think it's obviously that's why we're all here, right? Or at least part of the reason for most of us is this idea that, maybe a slight distrust in the powers that be and the amount of power and control. Actually, when I read Satoshi's white paper, that was my light bulb moment was, holy shit, it's not about money. It's about power and control and censorship. And I thought that was super interesting. So with Uprock, are you trying to build, I suppose, what is Uprock? Let's go there. What is Uprock exactly? Because you'll explain the history, but maybe dive into what it is and how people might be able to use it, etc.
Yeah, so where we started first getting real traction, because we tried a lot of different messaging, but we knew we can just make the onboard slick, so we auto-generate a wallet for you. But the first message was, help unblock the internet or contribute your unused bandwidth on your mobile device and earn rewards. We didn't realize already that the whole idea of just earning passive income or reward programs are already huge, worldwide trend. Everyone wants to make some passive income on their phone. In the Web2 space, if you look up reward program in the App Store or Google Play Store, all the top 10 apps that show up have 50 million downloads or more. It's just huge. Google has a reward program in their surveys, and there's tons of people out there doing stuff like this. Yeah. And so that's what that's helped us get our first traction. We're getting a few thousand installs per day without paying for it, really.
Nice.
And so people like the idea of I think that trend helped us a lot. And the other one was everyone's seeing these articles of AI needs more data. Data is a new oil. And it's cool, how do I take advantage of that? what do I do about it? And so if you provide a solution, say, well, here's how you can take advantage of and actually make some money on this new worldwide, this data gold mine that's happening. Instead of just being an observer, you can be part of it. And then we can make that super, super simple. Under a couple of minutes, you can get started and start earning some rewards for it. That was like a really easy sell, because everyone's like, yeah, I get it. I've seen the articles. We've all seen these articles. What can I do about it? How can I be a part of it? Instead of just contributing my data, can I make some money off of it? And so that was it. And then as we kept diving deeper into the reward program world, I realized DePIN is the evolution of the world's best reward program. I mean, it really is, because like I said, in the Web 2 space, you have to buy something first to get any cash back or some reward back. But in this case, all of our business models, the data is the underlying business model. And so you can really get people started pretty instantly, and they can see a reward fast without having to give a credit card up. And then once you do that and they have a really good experience with your wallet or whatever you're offering, like a lot of people know, once you give a good experience with your first wallet, then you can introduce them with staking and a bunch of other cool things that only crypto enables. And so I think this is why we can also do a lot of cool things where, hey, try this. It's real. You got some tokens, and now we can introduce you staking, swapping. Here's other ways to earn. Here's other referral programs. Bunch of ways you can earn, right?
Power ups, yeah. So if I'm understanding it correctly, I have a friend who I have to explain everything. Like, I have to sort of take the technical stuff, so I try to always translate it into like Brian speak, let's just say. So for Brian's sake, you have a mobile browser that essentially enables like a two-way sort of, you share your data, but you're monetizing that. So there's a sort of a passive income stream as well, and it's secure, uncensored, blah, blah, blah. Is that correct?
So one difference is we knew we didn't have to sell your personal browsing history. So we do not make browser extensions or attach to a browser that, or even ask for permissions where that could even be possible. Just because we know from the VPN day, like a lot of companies out there, or even your own AI agent, you want to be able to crawl the internet without getting blocked. Like companies like Cloudflare will actively block your AI agent, even your own personal individual one, or for companies. That's why a lot of companies use proxies or VPNs. And so we knew we didn't need to actually ask that permission. Just we want to be able to have this huge network that unblocks the internet for things like AI agents, or just just for companies who want to be able to scrape the internet or crawl the internet at a really big scale. So I'd say it's a reward program in the front where you can just leave it open, or you can do active tasks like games, surveys, contribute to earn, share with your friends, stuff that you already do on your phone, but you can actually earn rewards for it that are crypto. So it's just more liquid than earning points that are locked into like an airlines program or something. But in the back end, it's a browser with, like, think of it like a headless browser or no UI, where we're just running websites all day long for companies. And those companies pay us to do that. And when we get paid, we use that revenue and we share it with the network. We share it with the users. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Val, you had mentioned that you get involved, Syndicate gets involved at a very early stage with companies in the space. Maybe you could walk us through, and that DePIN is obviously a huge area of interest for you at the moment. What kind of, like, if there was somebody listening and they're like a founder and they're thinking of starting something in the DePIN space, what I suppose tips would you give them, or maybe just to clarify, like at what stage can they access things like accelerators and funding and things like that?
To be honest, each accelerator, each venture studio helps and supports startup in different stages. Like the stage where Syndica, where we believe we can contribute and overall venture studio can contribute the most, is early stage, when actually the founder comes and he's not sure what GTM he has, well, how to build everything, what roadmap he should have. So we do believe that to start everything from scratch is much easier rather than make minor or the biggest changes when the founder is on the seed round already. So from my experience, what I've seen in marketing and overall in Syndica, once I was in touch with lots of founders and C-level people from the startups, First of all, you need to analyze the market. You need to see the trends. The market is actually volatile. It's quite important to adjust to the markets, to the needs of the users. It for sure depends on what geography you are focusing, what priorities you have. It's definitely important to onboard advisors who are not only like 100K followers on LinkedIn and it's only about talking, but rather than any experience. It's more important to bring 2 5 people from the industry who can really contribute. From my experience as well, the most powerful thing, and I'm sure that all of you will agree with me, is community and ecosystem. So if in the industry you are quite well known, or you are actually trying to connect with more people, especially in the PIN industry, in AI, in RWA, and so on, it's much easier to do business. You can do lots of mistakes, but you actually can easily shift. Someone can tell you, you can partner with someone, and this will just bring your project to the next level. So yeah, from our perspective, first of all, it's strategy. Then, of course, it's people, it's team. And the third point is for sure the ecosystem, the people who you have around, the partners. And yeah, in the team, I also mean the marketing. It's really important to have good marketing, because you can
Definitely.
have the best product person, but the marketing will consist from Indian shillers who will just like spam in the community.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is actually, I would say, from the experience that I've shifted from the marketing position to BD, I really feel that the best thing that you can do is build connections. And this is something that helps you to develop your skills, because you are surrounded with people who inspire you, who inspire you in the PIN sector and vertical or other sectors. And you can definitely build something great with the people, with the power that you have around.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, marketing is the most important position in any Web3 company, said the CMO. Yeah, look, it is interesting to see how things have changed. Because I feel like in 2017, when I started in the Web3 space, although it wasn't called that then, it was definitely like ICOs were kind of about raising money. It was kind of like very early stage, usually an idea, and then kind of evolved to where we are today, 2025, where it's like, I just feel like token launches now are more about marketing than they are about fundraising. I don't think, obviously you can raise funds through public sales, but I think it's more, it happens more behind closed doors now. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I suppose, is up for debate. But so am I right in saying then that if, like, the people that Syndica are most interested in speaking to would be, you're saying like very early stage, so a guy with an idea, or maybe a couple of guys who have sort of thought out their strategy, thought out what this thing that they want to try and build looks like, but they're not too far down the road where, pivots are kind of become an expensive thing, or, have been programming for the last 2 years in their garage or whatever, is that correct, or did I misunderstand?
We work with early stage startups, and this is where we can bring the biggest value. But we also have a quite big kind of deal flow channel where our partners share with us startups that are on the seed round. And as we invest, lots of startups are coming for the investments and for money, actually. And in this stage, they come not only for money, but also the ecosystem. We have quite big and broad ecosystem. We're on the market 8 years. We have successful stories such as Schema Finance, Schema Network. This is our startup, TFI as well. So all these startups, they actually help to boost the partnership, the ecosystem database, I would say, and list.
Mhm.
So when startups, even the startup, not early stage, comes to us, we feel that they are fine with everything. They do not need us as advisors or other stuff. They are covered with the development. They do not need, for example, our help in cyber and other stuff. We are happy to share the connections. We are happy to connect good people with good people, because this is how everything works, and how then the startup can come to us, and we'll need maybe in the second, maybe this founder will start another startup, and he remembers that we actually connected with good people, and this pumped the startup on another level. So we actually, the priority is still, even when I was in Dubai, to find early stage startup. But it's also about the partnerships. So it's good partners, good service providers, good companies, and big one, L1s, L2s, L3s, and so on. And of course, good people who are in the industry, good specialists.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think all you have to do is look at the schedule of events and how well attended they are generally, to see that, what my mom used to always say was like, what you know in life is not as important as who you know. So there's definitely an element of that as a truism, I think. And why would Web3 be any different? Even though we're distributed, like most of the teams are distributed and could be based literally anywhere, I think quality of your network is definitely going to be one of the critical keys to success, which is why I always find, organizations like Syndicate very interesting. Thank you, Val. Andrew, I believe you're Carrier One. Tell us more about what you're trying to do with telecom. You said that, well, I suppose, first of all, what is Carrier One? I know you're trying to address a problem in the telecom space. I actually worked in IP telephony for a while, once upon a time in my life. So I do understand how, how legacy incumbents can be really intractable, I would say, and somewhat, like, some of the technology can be really, really, because it costs so much to get it up, to roll it out to begin with. So yeah, I can understand some of the challenges, but maybe just tell us a little bit more about the not enough nodes problem and other problems that I suppose that you guys are trying to solve, and what you're trying to do in Carrier One.
Yeah, for sure. So at Carrier One, what we're trying to do is we're trying to have connectivity without borders. So we're trying to develop a full-fledged mobile network operator that sits on top of a radio access network. So one of the few things is we have 4G and 5G access, as well as Wi-Fi offloading that we are providing. And so what we do is we have end users or operators that install these nodes, both indoors in commercial properties or outdoors on a tower. And by doing that, what we're doing is we're creating a ubiquity network. So the hard problem for telecoms is telecoms work in an old-fashioned way. They kind of branch outwards from a metropolitan area. So they have one issue, which is rural connectivity, where you might be in a little tiny municipality of a town with maybe less than 30,000 people, or maybe about 50,000 people. That's not a priority to most telecoms. The priority to them is higher dense populations, and so they branch those areas out as they go along, and sometimes some of those areas are on like 3G or 4G, and they haven't been upgraded to 5G. So by us being able to enable the network, we're able to actually roam with different partners and have their subscribers roam on our network. And so that's one of the key ideas that we have for Carrier One. The secondary thing that we have is offloading. So say, for instance, you're at a baseball game and you have more than 30,000 people sitting at the baseball game. Everyone sees the awesome pitch that just happened, and they're all taking a video of it. Everyone now starts uploading that to Instagram, and now you have a network bottleneck. And that's because we have spectrums that are allocated with certain size and certain amount of bandwidth that is limited for that spectrum. So a mobile network operator will own different spectrums, but they might not have as much bandwidth to deal with that overload of traffic. So for us, installing Wi-Fi hotspots, allowing us to do hotspot 2.0 enabling the network operators to be able to have access to that, gives them the ability to offload that data and allow for the 4G or 5G radio in that given area to handle NG 911 services or handle other phone calls while not taxing it so much for the data bandwidth offload. And so that fixes the two problems, one rural, one urban. And then the other thing that we're doing is we're enabling SIM swap protection. We have SIM cards that we're going to be providing and eSIMs to our end users, which allow them to be a subscriber and purchase a mobility plan and be able to travel around the world without borders. And that's the whole concept that we have currently for Carrier One.
Okay, so again, I'm going to try and give you a very simple version of what I just heard for the benefit of Brian. So basically, you're putting out hotspots, essentially as hardware. So there'll be hardware devices that will be appearing all over the world, and those could potentially be hosted by these could be potentially attached to an existing telecoms tower on a different frequency, or they could be in somebody's house, or is it?
Well, we don't suggest in somebody's house. What we suggest is in commercial real estate spots like airports, malls.
Right.
We suggest that eventually we will be able to allow indoor units for apartment buildings, but right now it's all about commercial properties or properties that have foot traffic, just to enable the network. So
those commercial properties, like let's say Dubai Airport, could go, okay, that sounds cool. I want to be involved with Carrier One. We're going to buy like 100 of these or whatever, and we're going to put them up. But then Dubai Airport, in this example, own those devices, and they are effectively nodes on your network. Is that correct?
That is correct. So the end user will put up these nodes, and what they will do is they'll get rewards just for having the node up and running. And at the same time, any bandwidth that goes through from any mobile network operator that we currently have roaming agreements with, they'll earn tokens just for that data bandwidth that goes through that node.
Awesome. And then me as just an individual who travels a lot, let's say, says to myself, well, Carrier One sounds cool. I'm going to get a SIM for those guys, or an eSIM or whatever, and throw it into my phone. And then as I'm traveling, I'm essentially going to try and connect to one of your nodes as I'm on my phone for data and for calls. And then if I can't get onto a node because I'm somewhere that just doesn't have any nodes, I will roam onto some other telecoms network. Is that right?
That is correct.
All right, cool. Juicy. That sounds awesome. So I would imagine then a fairly large operational problem with that would be, or a challenge, I should say, would be, how do you distribute? I mean, you're going to need just a shitload of, pardon the expression, node devices, hardware devices all over the world, right? As a sort of a tipping point. You're going to need those for Carrier One to make sense commercially. I would imagine you would need, and by all means, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would imagine you would need a lot of those devices spread quite evenly around where your users are going to be. So
yeah, that is correct. Well, we have to have a lot of operators and a lot of users to actually deploy these units. But in the interim, we still have coverage because we have these roaming agreements that are bilateral with different operating partners.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, so whereabouts in the journey are you guys? How far along are you, and have you got devices out in the field already? Can people sign up?
Yeah, so we have devices out in the field. People can sign up, go to our website, get a device, install it in a prime location. We will be throwing our Explorer map online that will actually show you where the best places to install them are based on the mobile network operator needs. And then on top of that, we also have our phone numbering system, which we call KNS, Carrier Number System, and allows you to get a phone number. You can use that phone number without a SIM card, or you can use it with a SIM card. It's up to you, and you could travel using that eSIM or SIM card with that mobile plan that you get.
All right, cool. Yeah, that's actually a really interesting way to solve the problem. If you've got a map that's basically look, we need nodes over here, and if you put a node in here, because one of the things I've learned learned through the data that we have, our first-hand data here at Havelo, is that places that you don't expect, where you wouldn't necessarily expect to be extraordinarily profitable are extraordinarily profitable sometimes because of demand, right? There's a lot of people who want, a VPN access or whatever in a certain location, and then conversely, there's not a lot of nodes there, so you end up being high traffic node if you set one up, and then as a consequence, you end up actually earning quite well. And that seems to be. Now, I'm not sure if that's equally true with Carrier One, but certainly for the DePINs that we integrate with at the moment, that's been something that I found kind of surprising. I mean, obvious when you hear it said, but kind of surprising, like with the geography of things. So it's super cool if you've created a map where it's kind of like, you know what, in London right now, there's a lot of need. So if you set up your node there, that would be great. And South London or something would be a good spot. That's cool. All right. Jesse, just in terms of Uprock and what you guys are doing, I mean, I suppose the question I have really is, one of the things that seems to be a bit of an issue with DePIN at the moment is it's kind of we're sort of nascent, and there's a huge number of great teams doing great things. That's why I love doing these shows, because it gets to talk to really, really interesting, intelligent people who are solving problems. But it does seem like at the moment, the centralized incumbents have more momentum, which obviously makes sense because they have bigger teams, bigger budgets, etc. So I'm just wondering, like, do you, with Uprock, your website says turn your internet into AI-fueled rewards. I'm just wondering, like, what determines rewards at the moment with Uprock, and how rewarding is it, I suppose, to use? Like, can I make my first million? Trading shitcoins is not working. No, I'm kidding about the trading shitcoins.
Yeah. Well, I think that every DePIN, they're all going to have the same issue. We thought about this pretty early on, even with our tokenomics, is you have the supply and demand problem. Yeah. The whole cool thing about DePIN is you can bootstrap it with tokens, and if you have a really good vision, you can tell a good story, and you're solving a big problem, you get a lot of people believe in that, and it's really cool. And that's how you build a community, and that's when we were able to do that, and so that's awesome. But we also knew that going back to the reward program part, like we knew that just the idea of like install our app and earn token, we just thought like that won't be strong enough over time, strong enough tokenomics. It's got to be you got to do something with the data you're accumulating, and you have to start that really, really early. And so, and then also have other forms of revenue, even with the reward program, that can actually pay for the tokens you're issuing. So, we're actually bringing a lot of Web2 money into our app, where there's companies out there that are willing to pay for surveys. It's pretty, and when you have, we have about 2.7 million installs worldwide, and our mission to get to like 10 million in a year. And when you even have a few million, that's a pretty formidable community, a marketing group right there, where we can go out there and on behalf of our community and negotiate really good deals. So if you do a survey, or if you download this game, or actually do all the same stuff you're already doing on your phone, shopping, stuff like that, we can actually negotiate a really awesome reward back. And so that actually is great, because that's real revenue from Web2 companies, and that helps pay for the tokens we're issuing. And then but really the big long-term goal is the data. And so the bandwidth to compute that, when you have that many millions of devices, that's a lot of data you can actually do something with, real-time mobile device data, which is amazing. And so we just launched that about a month ago. And that's, it's called prism.uprock.com. This is how, and we know the data business very well. Like I said, we've been in VPN for a very long time. So the three core products are, how we're going to actually fulfill the demand for all the supply we got is uptime monitoring. When you have a real-time breathing network, we can actually go out and sell it and say we can provide a far superior uptime monitoring service, where we can tell you how fast is your CDN, your website, your app, or your mission critical APIs that you're selling to other companies, how fast, and actually, what's their performance in every major country and city on earth, right? Because we can actually, because we have that network. Whereas in the past, maybe you hire like Uptime Robot or Atlassian, and they're just going to ping maybe 20 data centers. We can actually ping thousands of devices, And so just very early on, we knew that is going to be a thing, because every DePIN might, if you start that too late, you're going to issue so many tokens out there, and it's going to be a nightmare because you need to really quickly actually start doing the business deals, getting some revenue, and start paying for it. And really think through how many tokens are you issuing every month. There's got to be some kind of cap or some rules. You can't just do it all day long, because those tokens are basically, it's like receipts that come due one day, you know. And so so I think for us, like we have 200,000 plus reviews, and we started off saying this is passive reward, so you don't have to do anything. But if you look at through all of them, the number one request everyone says is are there more ways to earn? More ways to earn. And so we were surprised at how many people actually want to spend more time in the app to do more things. Which is, I think, obviously all DePIN companies, they're willing to buy devices, set things up, like contribute, like send logs, like really help, share feedback, which is awesome. So it's a totally different experience than my past companies. Like this one's, we do our own live stream too. And it's just really cool to see people show up and spend the time. We have a contribute to earn program, whereas if you're not a developer, you can also just earn by providing feedback on the product, or like what you think of the new features, things like that. So we want to make multiple ways to earn, essentially, that can help.
Right.
So.
I mean, like, it kind of makes sense when you remember that story of when Axie Infinity was like taking the world by storm, or at least the Philippines. There was stories of like whole villages just basically like not working, but all meeting together in the sort of town square and sitting there playing Axie Infinity together in a sort of a community setting, and
Philippines
was generating more income. They were generating more income from that than they would be doing local jobs. So I think those kinds of things, I think everybody's looking for more money, right? We all want our side hustles and all that kind of stuff. So
and it's cool for folks to we've noticed too, like, if you can pay us like even a small phone bill, or in some countries earning $5-10 is awesome. You can really pay a lot. So in many cases, it's in a phone bill, or even US, even paying one of your streaming bills is it's great. It's a good hook. It works. But even beyond that, we have we did a survey and asked people if this was if you know about crypto, just get an idea of your experience. And half, we had 200,000 people respond to that thing, and we had about 47% say this is their first time even knowing what a wallet is or crypto is at all. And so that's cool that we just were able to onboard a bunch of people without them knowing. And then once you do that too, you really do, people do feel empowered. And that's the reviews we get. Like, they're so excited to share with their friends and family, like they're in Web3, and here's how you can do it easily for your family too. And so, and then a lot of our community likes to, once they understand how cool it is to have a global community coordinate to do some, solve some big problems, they end up, our Uprock community ends up wanting to learn about you guys too, and all the other DePIN projects out there, which is awesome. Yeah. So like you guys talking about building community and who is so important. Yeah, we totally believe that. But we'd like to cross-pollinate all our communities together, because a lot of times a company that might be interested in Hello will be interested in Uprock, and vice versa. It's great. And I'd rather do this all day long than paying for Google ads.
That's 100%.
I'd rather do stuff like this. It's so much more powerful.
It's interesting as well, and that's fascinating what you're saying about 47% being brand new people that you were upboarding to the space, because we did similar surveys to our user base, and it was something similar. I think it was just under 40% was curious about crypto. They didn't have any crypto experience. They hadn't been in previous bull runs and all that kind of stuff. So again, like a huge part of what we're trying to do is onboard those like normies, as we'd call them in the Web3 space. But people who just aren't even necessarily interested in, even aren't necessarily interested in decentralized technology beyond what it can do for them, which I think is
which is fine.
Most people.
It's a good way to get started, I think.
Exactly. Well, it's a much bigger group of people, outside of Web3 than inside of Web3, obviously. So if you're looking at markets to target, you'd be, and actually this is a common theme I see a lot in DePIN through these conversations and other conversations I'd have. I think in kind of the same way that NFTs attracted, I huge new user base of artists because it gave them a way to kind of try and monetize what they were doing.
Yeah.
Let them continue to be artists essentially. I feel like DePIN could do the same thing for, costs and bills, basically. Like, do we get to a point where, the decentralized landscape is such that the reality of our lives as people with, like bandwidth at home or on our mobiles, computing power or GPU power, where it's all kind of shared, and we essentially the rewards of that are decentralized as opposed to Google and Amazon making all the money, and the rest of us are just paying for those services instead of earning from them. So do you see that as a reality? Do you see us sometime in the future being able to compete at that level?
I think if especially if this kind of AI driven internet, it needs two things: compute and data. And it's really going to be hard for an average startup in this space to compete on the compute part. I think there's just so much money in data centers and how much they're pouring into that. But the data side is even as more important, And so there's all these folks. We use that term DePIN precision. What DePIN does is like it really provides so much granular data on any problem you want to solve, whether it's weather data or we're doing real time, location IP-based data. You have so much more precision on what you're getting. And then you marry that with, then you collect so much data. How can you actually do something useful with it? Well, perfect. Now that AI is getting cheaper and cheaper and a lot of it's open source, we can actually package all that data in a useful product for businesses to do something with it too. So we got DePIN precision with the data collection, and then we can unlock the value from it with some of these AI stuff that's happening. So it's a good marriage. And I think I think a lot of DePINs, when they start, we're really good at selling this really inspiring story to consumer side. And then on the business side, it's very technical and boring. But those business people who are going to your site, they also want to be inspired. They're running their own businesses, their own teams. And I think every DePIN company will also need to figure out, like, how do we get inspired and get people to sign up and get business customers? I think about this a lot for our own site. Like, our consumer site is very fun, inspiring. We're selling a really good vision. And then our kind of first versions of the business version of the site was very technical and like, it's just, it was boring actually. And if you look at even the best business websites out there, they still sell a good vision and get people excited. We're going to save you time and money. Here's how we're going to do it. We're going to make your business super successful. They still have those, selling the dream essentially. Yeah. And so I think DePIN companies have to get really good at that this year. On here's the use cases, but not get boring with it. Like, here's a dream use cases and how are we unlocking that with DePIN.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Andrew, are you do you think we reach a place where decentralized options are as easily available and as cost competitive and as effective as centralized versions? I mean, obviously in the context of telecoms.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're looking at decentralizing telecom because of CapEx being so large as it is. And when it comes down to operators spend so much money just to install, 4G and 5G radios just about everywhere. There's a cost to having running staff. There's a cost to operating in specific areas. And this extra added cost can be easily neutralized by making the carriers, share the spectrum access and allow others to deploy these 4G, 5G radios or even the Wi-Fi hotspots, allowing the carriers to remove their CapEx completely and allowing neutral hosting amongst all the 4G, 5G radio access network. So I believe 100% that, eventually in the future, this is something that the telecoms will eventually adopt. The telecoms have already started looking at decentralizing the radio access network, which is, that 4G, 5G radios that they deploy. So they're already looking into that as a whole because they see the cost effective and savings that they can get from it. The only concern for them has always been security. It's always been, how do we ensure that our network's secure? How do we ensure that we don't go and run through users and subscribers where their details and their data is leaked because of this model, and we've guaranteed that the security end to end from one Wi-Fi point or even the 4G, 5G is secure across the entire internet. So we've already looked into that, and I think to go further from your point, when it comes down to Web 2 users, which are the normies we keep talking about, they will be able to adopt Web 3 if we provide solutions such as like zero knowledge proof, logins, so that they don't have to worry about saving these 24 word phrases. They don't have to worry about a private key. They don't have to worry about how transactions work. They just load up a website. The website automatically, if they log in with their Google account, they get in there. So you got to make the Web 2 users feel just as comfortable as they are with Web 2, with them knowing that it is still Web 3 enabled, but they don't realize it because of the interface.
Right. Yeah, like this is something that I've that's been puzzling me for years in this space is, like if we want to reach the critical mass required, like to break free of just this sort of early adopters and the kind of technologists and the nerds, right? And I include myself in that bracket, by the way, not a derogatory label, at least not the way I mean it. It fascinates me that we haven't seemed to cross that, cross that gap yet with wallets and things like that. Like we still have seed phrases and these kind of tools. Like, why do you think that is? Why do you think we haven't managed as a space, we haven't managed to make we have pieces of the technology, and right now I can very securely log into my, for example, bank. But why is it easy to log in there but not in? Why do I need to have a 24 phrase? I know it's more secure and all the rest of it, and I think surely to God I could use my biometrics and these other things.
Yeah, I think when it comes down to that, I mean, like I'm building on Sui currently as it is as a blockchain, and Sui has that ZK login, which allows you to log in using Google, Microsoft, Facebook, right, Apple, if you want for a login, and it's zero touch. So it's so simple to just you click on login and you created a wallet. And we as a provider for that, we don't have access to your wallet. So it still maintains that you control your wallet because you have the Google credentials and you're the only one that can log into that. Now, why? that is a pretty loaded question. I think from my perspective, we're still in the infancy stages of blockchain. From my own experience, everyone here is a builder. Everybody understands building on blockchain. Everyone understands all the use case of blockchain. We've developed it in a developer sense. And developers, they don't see it from the eyes of like, say, for instance, my mother, who might not understand how to actually open a wallet or even transact with a wallet. But you see, as we get closer, I mean, from our perspective, Carrier One, we have to actually enable Web 2 users to see a Web 2 interface and interact with a Web 2 interface, but it is all Web 3. And that, from our perspective, we've kind of done that already with the ZK login that Sui has provided to the ecosystem. But still, there's still a learning curve to understand, what is an asset, what is a token, what is a coin. There's still some educational experience that needs to be provided.
Right. I mean, yeah, 100%. Like, even aside from the tokens, I mean, I guess you're right. There isn't enough motivation unless you actually want to buy Bitcoin, for example. Why do you need a wallet? So maybe maybe DePIN is going to be the thing that crosses that divide, where it's like, well, okay, well, I do need a wallet now because I want to earn these passive rewards for, sharing the roof of my house for a telecom node, or running an app on my mobile that I can earn some rewards while I'm sitting on the toilet every day or whatever, instead of doom scrolling Instagram.
The hybrid approach is good. Like Andrew said, hybrid approach is good. Yeah, I think that's what you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. That really worked for us. Advanced users will always want like the connector wallet, but everyone, like, just to get started, I mean, I think also is like even requiring someone to connect wallet to create an account just to get started also seems crazy. It's like, imagine you just want to know what your company does and your app, and you say, hey, connect your bank account first. They're like, what? No, even though you can create new wallets on the fly, it still seems like this is a little too much just for me to explore your app.
Right.
Connect wallet. You know, it should be less friction than that. And then when you like it and trust it a little more, then connect your wallet and do more with it. But
definitely, you don't want that kind of a barrier to entry, a barrier to onboarding, right out front. Yeah, that's a great analogy, actually. Because if you did go to a website and they were like, "Oh, connect your bank account, and then we'll tell you what we're going to do," you'd be like, "No, thanks. I think I'll just not do that, and instead just go on about my business today."
Especially now with you've so many rug pulls and scams, and it just seems like a big ask now to be like connect wallet. It seems like a really big ask with even people who are new or been in this business for a while. Now it just seems like an even bigger ask to say connect your wallet with all the crap that's happened. So you really have to show. Yeah, you got to show what you're doing first to make that frictionless. Yeah.
It's kind of ironic actually that you need trust first, and we're all working in what was, what effectively is the evolution of trustless technology, right? Like that's where it was all supposed to come from, was the idea that you don't need to trust the third party. There is no third party. You just have to trust that the network can maintain its security, and then everything else goes from there. This is kind of ironic. Val, do you see, like, I suppose from my guess is that of the four of us on this call, you probably have the best visibility of the newest things that are being built in the space. Do you see projects coming through that are building? Like, I suppose my question is, do you think that there's a weightedness towards projects and protocols and things that are essentially trying to bridge that gap to like everyday users, like Web 2 users, let's say, or are you seeing mostly still like technology type businesses where it's they're looking to try and target enterprises at a technology level? Sorry, there's
it's fine.
That was a little duck in here.
It actually depends who founder is. If founder is builder, the developer with a background of 10 years, he wants like to include everything that he knew, everything that he found, and everything that competitors use. So if we're talking about the space and what the space tries to solve, 100%, I wanted to add that Web2 onboard, like the onboarding, the simplified onboarding right now for every startup, this is like a must. This was like a trend 1 year ago, and every cycle we see the like certain part of the projects that help us bring more Web2 users. For example, coming back to Telegram mini apps, they did lots of noise, but how many users they have brought to crypto and how many users started using crypto? So it's 100% that it was not always good, and it was not always about the quality. It was a lot about scams. But even if we like check Hamster Combat, how many users they onboarded using the TikTok videos and other stuff, this is also from the marketing background. Right now, if we see on the tendency and on the strategy of the apps, for example, connecting a wallet, this is for sure a red flag. Same as, for example, if it will be mandatory to put your photo when you create the account, especially in crypto. So we had a couple of cases before when I was in the agency, and right now as we are working on the startup. So the startup prepared MVP. MVP is launched already, and I do not know why, but they decided to put like obligation to use the photo. It could be a screenshot, NFT, or whatever. And so the percentage of users who completed it was like 20% from 40K users. So we see how the users do not like complexity, how they want just to connect Gmail even, but Gmail is not always something that we want to use. So I do believe that right now we are trying to simplify the onboarding of the user. The strategy is to bring more users in crypto, Web 2, or maybe return back the Web 3 who face scams. And for sure, lots of startups are trying to solve this problem and contribute to the industry so that they can bring as many users as they can.
Yeah, I think DePIN, anyways, seems like pretty much everybody I speak to is really keen on trying to. I mean, I suppose it's because it's really decentralized, and like for something to be really decentralized, you need a lot of users, a lot of nodes. So you you look at the biggest piece of the pie, which is everybody else who's not already. And again, it is a use case, I suppose. So cool.
Yeah.
Do you well, actually, we've kind of come to the top of the hour, so I suppose from my side, I just want to say a huge thank you to all of you for coming in and being on here today. It's been a really interesting conversation. I love having these conversations. I guess if you just all want to take a turn at telling everybody if they want to find out more about your projects, what your web address is, where they can find you on the socials, and then I'll sum up and call it a day. Andrew, do you want to go first? Because I know you're about to jump on a flight to go to Consensus, I think, in Toronto.
Yep. So definitely you could check out Carrier One. You can follow our Twitter. You could join our Discord. So it's Carrier with a K .one. And you could join, see a little bit about our Wi-Fi access points. Check out about our 4G, 5G deployments, our CAN-S carrier number system. And yeah, just follow us.
Sounds good. Thanks, Emil, for giving us your time today. Val, do you want to go next?
Sure. Happy to chat with great projects with early stage startups. Syndica is always happy to connect, to contribute and help with scaling. So our website is syndica.co. You can connect with us on LinkedIn, with me on LinkedIn. Happy to chat. Telegram, Syndica, Valeria Syndica. So I'm happy to jump on a call and to understand how we can make this space, especially DePIN vertical, easier, contribute and build something great together. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you a
awesome.
lot for hosting and to Hevelo team. And it was a pleasure to talk to Andrew and Jesse as well.
Thanks, Phil.
Same.
Jesse,
Yeah, so it's we started this call at 6 a.m. for me, so this is really early for a DePIN conversation.
You know, thank you.
Well,
Thank you for getting up early.
It's a good way to start the day. No, this has been a lot of fun. Appreciate you inviting me. So I'm going to be in New York next week for Solana Accelerate. So if anyone in the audience would love to meet up, don't be shy. Please DM me. Love to meet there. To learn more about Uprocks, uprock.com. We also have prism.uprock.com, which is our web intelligence tools for our businesses. We just launched our web scraper API that's powered by our DePIN network. And so we'd love to give you a free developer API key. If you're in need of real-time, like large-scale web crawling and web scraping, we'd love for you to try it out and let us know how it goes. So it's invite only at the moment. So if you want an API key, just reach out. So thanks again, though.
What constitutes large scale? Just as a quick.
Well, I think right now the limit's like 50 gigabytes a month.
Okay.
Yeah, which would probably be plenty. So if you have, whether it's if you want to plug it into your cursor editor or an AI agent, or if you already use a proxy solution, something like, try this instead, and it's a lot more cost effective than a proxy network, and a lot of people need real time data without getting blocked by Cloudflare, and so that's what it will enable. So yeah, give it a shot. And if you want to earn Uprock tokens, just go to iPhone or Android, and we're in the app stores. You can download us in under a minute. You can get started. So.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. That is it for our show today. Hevelo.com. If you want to check out Hevelo, we're on @Hevelo Official on X, and we are actually going to be launching a gaming competition in a couple of weeks. So if you're into gaming and you like playing games, solving puzzles and that kind of thing, come along and take part. It's a tournament that's going to go for a month. And yeah, that's a little sneak peek because we haven't actually released any marketing on it yet, but we will be in the coming days and weeks. So from me, a big thank you to you, the listener, or the viewer, I should say. Thanks for tuning in again this week and being part of our community. We will see you next week. Thanks, everyone. And
Cheers.